They say power corrupts, but I say in the hands of an HOA president, it mutates into something far more obnoxious than corruption. It becomes a clipboard dictatorship, and if you've ever lived under one, you know exactly what I mean. But let me tell you how I turned a smug HOA Karen into the punchline of her own rulebook, starting from the day I came home to find a bright yellow notice taped to my front door like a scarlet letter accusing me of crimes against landscaping, because apparently my perfectly healthy maple tree was casting too much shade on the community sidewalk. Yes, you heard that right. Too much shade. Apparently that offended Karen's delicate sense of symmetry. This woman treated sunlight like it was her personal property, and she decided without a vote, without a letter, without even a courtesy knock that my tree had to go. The next morning at 8 a.m. sharp, I heard the dreaded buzz of chainsaws and looked outside to see 3 HOA contractors in neon vests circling my yard like executioners. Karen stood nearby sipping her iced latte, sunglasses perched on her nose like she was presiding over a fashion show. I stormed outside shouting, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" One of them mumbled HOA ordinance this and section that. While firing up his saw, I said, "Shut up, that's my property." Karen smirked and said, "Actually, the roots are infringing on community land, and under subsection 12B, we have every right." Before I could stop them, they cut into the bark, and within an hour, my beloved maple was nothing but a heap of logs stacked in the gutter. I didn't cry, but my patio furniture did, because that tree had been its only shade from the afternoon sun. Karen patted her little binder like she had just solved world hunger and said, "You're welcome. Your yard looks cleaner now." That's when I pulled out my phone and filmed every second, her smug face stepping onto my lawn, the contractors sawing. Through private property, every unlawful word spilling from her lips. She thought she was untouchable, but what she didn't know was I had something she never expected. Documentation and a taste for revenge served legally. Ice cold. Most people in my situation would complain to the board, maybe write an angry email, and hope someone listened, but I'm not most people. I'm the kind who alphabetizes receipts and keeps spare copies of county ordinances. So I hired a surveyor, called my lawyer, and confirmed exactly what I already suspected. That tree was 100% inside my property line. No encroachment, no easement, nothing. Karen had just authorized an illegal removal of my tree. With zero authority, I could have sued right then and there, but I decided something far sweeter. I would build my revenge slowly, brick by brick, permit by permit, until she wished she had left that maple alone. The very next week, a delivery truck pulled up with the first piece of my masterpiece, a 15-foot-tall metal sculpture shaped like a tree, but with twisting chrome branches that spun in the wind and reflected sunlight directly into Karen's living room window. I called it the Spirit of Maple. Karen called it hideous. She stomped over binder in hand, demanding I remove it. I smiled and said it's an art installation protected under City Code Section 514. In fact, I already filed the paperwork with the county. Her face twisted like a lemon being chewed by a cat. She sputtered about HOA decor rules, but none of them applied because art is not landscaping. It's expression and legally immune. She stormed off muttering about calling the mayor, but I wasn't finished. 2 days later, I installed solar-powered LED strips on every branch programmed to glow neon green and pulse every time the wind blew. Karen nearly fainted when she saw it light up at 9 p.m. She emailed me an official notice claiming it violated aesthetic harmony. My lawyer replied with a polite letter, quoting city law and reminding her that harmony was not a legal term. Meanwhile, I planted a butterfly and pollinator garden across the property line closest to her house. Nothing exotic, just a lot of wild flowers that grew fast, tangled, and colorful. Within weeks, bees, hummingbirds, and butterflies swarmed the area. Karen complained she was being attacked by nature. I told her it was environmental justice and that HOA jurisdiction did not extend to state-protected pollinator zones. She screamed. I smiled. and the neighbors started enjoying the view. By now my revenge garden was buzzing literally and metaphorically, but I wanted more. So I installed a motion sensor speaker system inside the sculpture that played random bird calls whenever someone walked near, hawk shrieks, crow caws, even a peacock scream at high noon. Karen lost her mind. She started leaving angry notes in my mailbox, written in all caps with fewer and fewer coherent sentences. One just said, "This is visual terrorism in red ink." I framed it and hung it in my garage. The HOA board tried to intervene, but once they saw my survey, permits, and lawyer letters, they backed down. Karen was furious. She had ruled with fear for years, but now her own rulebook was being used as my weapon. And oh, was I just getting warmed up? They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but I discovered it tastes even better served with strobe lights, a DJ permit, and a community full of neighbors who secretly hated the HOA queen all along, because by the time Karen realized what I was building, she had already lost control, and the cracks in her empire were showing. It started when I organized what I called a community appreciation night, which was basically a polite way of saying rave in my backyard. I set up a stage under the chrome sculpture, rented speakers, got a legal noise permit, and invited everyone in the neighborhood except Karen. The theme was environmental justice, so people came dressed as trees, bushes, even one guy on stilts. As a giant sunflower, the HOA Facebook page melted down in real time, with Karen posting furious updates about public nuisances and visual terrorism. The cops showed up because of her call, but after checking the noise levels and my permits, they shrugged, asked for a flyer, and left. Karen nearly imploded when she saw an officer fist-bumping me while her binder shook in her hands, her face redder than a stop sign. But I wasn't done. The next week, she taped a citation to my door demanding $3,000 in landscaping fines. My lawyer laughed so hard he nearly choked on his coffee because Karen didn't even get board approval for the citation. She just forged it on HOA letterhead. That is fraud, in case you're wondering. So we fired back with a cease and desist, and a gentle reminder that impersonating an authority figure carries real legal consequences. In response, she tried to stage an emergency HOA meeting in her driveway with 3 loyal sidekicks. I showed up blasting the song Timber on a Bluetooth speaker while holding donuts and wearing a shirt that said "Trees Fall, Karma Rises." The actual board members quickly voted to suspend all citations until further review, leaving Karen standing there, screaming like a malfunctioning car alarm. One neighbor recorded the whole meltdown and uploaded it online. Within hours, the comment section had turned her into a meme. My personal favorite was her face photoshopped onto a weeping willow, with the caption, "When Karen meets karma, she hated me." But the truth was, she hated losing control even more. So she escalated the only way she knew how. She filed a personal lawsuit against me in county court, claiming emotional distress from my sculpture, interference with community, harmony, and yes, even raccoon attraction. It was the most Karen thing she could have possibly done. We showed up to court, armed with surveys, permits, HOA emails, and video proof. The judge listened for 15 minutes before leaning over and saying, "Wait, you cut down his tree without permission, and now you're suing him." Dismissed with prejudice, Karen's jaw hit the floor, but karma wasn't done. Because her fraudulent citations triggered a review by the county's Office of Community Governance, turns out impersonating municipal authority isn't just a slap on the wrist. She was personally fined $8,000 when the news hit the neighborhood. It was like the dam broke. Suddenly, homeowners who had stayed silent for years came together and called for a special vote to remove her as HOA president. The turnout was overwhelming, 27 votes to 3, and even the 3 looked embarrassed. I watched from my porch with an ice-cold lemonade as Karen packed up her little lawn inspection flags, her sacred reserved parking sign, and the battered binder that had been her weapon of choice. She shoved them into a box labeled HOA Essentials and stomped off into obscurity. But I wasn't quite finished. Revenge deserves a monument. So I took the last slab of my old maple tree stump and engraved it with the words, "In loving memory of peace and shade, murdered by HOA hubris, replaced by glorious petty justice, I mounted it beneath the chrome sculpture and wrapped it with solar. Fairy lights, now every night as the LEDs glow and the wind chimes sing their chaotic tune across the neighborhood, I sit back in my lawn chair, sip lemonade, and smile as Karen's old house sits dark, her blinds drawn forever against the legacy she created. Neighbors stroll by laughing, pointing at the sculpture. Taking selfies under its branches, the HOA now treats me like some kind of local folk hero, the guy who stood up to the clipboard tyrant and won. So yes, revenge wasn't just sweet, it was beautifully landscaped, legally watertight, and forever lit by the glow of the spirit of maple, the end.